They're using the suppression of paper to accumulate. If you look at what's been bought since the beginning of the year when gold and silver got its ass handed to it, China's bought more than ever. Poland says they've used the pullbacks to buy more. They bought more than anyone but Tether, except actually bought more than anyone, Tether, second to them. Look at the U.S. government, if they're the ones doing this. How do you devalue your currency? If you devalue it against the dollar index, where currencies are continually selling their currency to buy dollars, it's a faulty measuring stick. You do it by letting gold go to the moon. As gold goes higher and higher and higher and higher and higher, the dollar goes lower and lower and lower and lower. This is where Tether came into it, and the Genius Act, where anytime money moves from January on, it will be backed by stablecoin and 90-day or less short-term treasuries, and that interest is not transferable. So Tether takes that interest and buys gold. They own more gold than anyone in the world, but the central banks bought more than China over the last 2 years. They were in trouble, right, by the Justice Department. Could it be? This is all theory. It's hypothetical. Could it be they struck a deal? I mean, we know Bo Hines was Trump's crypto czar and confidant, is now the CEO of USA Tether, the Genius Act compliant stablecoin. So what if they said, you're going to buy gold with every time money moves and you issue a stablecoin and buy treasuries, you're going to take that interest, you're going to buy gold. You're going to sell it to the treasury quietly. Over time, you'll all get rich. You're not in trouble anymore, and you're going to help us devalue the dollar and push gold to the moon. This is why Van Eck funds came out and said if the dollar really did lose reserve status, we could see gold at 139,000 an ounce.
The official inflation narrative falls apart if currency weakness turns out to be the actual policy goal rather than an unintended side effect. Schectman's theory links stablecoin growth, treasury demand, and gold accumulation into a single possible macro picture. Whether every piece of that theory holds up or not, he argues investors are better off watching institutional behavior than political messaging. Your purchasing power depends on what policymakers actually incentivize, not what they promise.
So put it into that theory. Right now at $4,000, a $20 million bond in 20 years is 5,000 ounces. At 139,000 an ounce, it's 130 ounces. Now, again, it's all hypothetical, but by letting gold go higher, you devalue the dollar to reshore manufacturing, to build out manufacturing if you have zero coupon bonds, no upfront borrowing costs. And over time, as gold goes higher, the dollar goes lower, our manufacturing starts to build and we can start to produce more than we consume. The rising price of gold speaks to the devalued dollar and makes it much easier to pay off the bond in the future. That's my theory. I added this into what Judy said. Now you put it all together. I don't see a better way of doing this.
So that I wrote some, because again, this is all hypothetical, it's conjecture, but I basically had said that in order for it to provide meaningful protection against the rise in gold price, the amount of gold will need to get established or should get established when the bond is issued. For example, if gold were 5,000 an ounce, when you invested $1 million, the bond would represent 200 ounces of gold. If gold later rose to 50,000, those 200 ounces would be worth 10 million. You can then choose between receiving the guaranteed million principal or redeeming the bond based on its gold value of 10 million.
You could do it either way.
So
you could do it either way.
A bond structured around rising gold prices would completely flip how most people think about sovereign debt. Schectman's idea assumes future currency debasement becomes a built-in feature rather than an accident. That possibility raises the question of whether protecting purchasing power should matter more than chasing nominal returns. Retirement portfolios, he notes, tend to take the first hit when currencies weaken faster than traditional assets can adapt.
Either way, I think at the end of the day, the outcome and the premise behind it is that gold is going to be higher 50 years down the road and the dollar will be substantially lower.
There's no question about that. There is no way that we could automatically right now cut entitlements across the board. No more welfare, no more food stamps, no more unemployment.
Impossible.
No more any of that crap, which is bleeding us dry. And then we cut Medicare benefits, slash them. And then we say mandatory, you can't retire until you're 75 and Social Security. We're broke and we are completely and totally broke. So, this is a bigger issue. It's, how do you do this? How do you normalize the balance sheet? And if the world sees that we're trapped, who buys the treasuries to finance the debt? We have like 15 trillion in debt that's coming due over the next 12 months. How the hell do you pay that off? How do you do so? And in a rising interest rate environment, the cost of your indebtedness goes up exponentially. We have already crossed the Ferguson line, which says when a superpower spends more on interest than on national defense, you cease to become a superpower. These are scary thoughts, but the reality of it, it's just mathematics now. And how do you get out of the math? That's why you let gold go to the moon, to devalue the dollar, peg it to a bond, and let the appreciating gold be part of the bond distribution down the road. You knew gold was going higher in dollar terms. It's a great deal for the bondholder.
Yep.
It's a great deal for the U.S. government. It works out because I do believe in my soul, when you see the most well-informed traders in the world buy gold, that the way they're doing and lying about it, remember what we said? The World Gold Council said, yeah, I understand you guys bought more gold than that being the central banks, that over the first quarter than in any first quarter in history, but you lied about it by a factor of 15. You didn't buy 16 tons, you bought 245 tons. So they're lying about it, as is China. Goldman Sachs said they underreported it by 10
Yeah.
times. So they're lying about their acquisition for a reason. They're using the suppression of paper to accumulate. If you look at what's been bought since the beginning of the year when gold and silver got its ass handed to it, China's bought more than ever. Poland says they've used the pullbacks to buy more. They bought more than anyone but Tether, except actually bought more than anyone, Tether, second to them. Look at the U.S. government, if they're the ones doing this. Or let me just say that differently. Look at the deliveries on COMEX. And if it were the U.S. government and the Exchange Stabilization Fund, Tether would keep them at arm's length on that side. Who's standing for delivery for billions every month? 14 billion in June, 20 billion in February, billions every month. Some of the naysayers say, but yeah, it's not leaving COMEX. Some is, a lot staying there.
Public disclosures rarely capture the full picture when strategic assets are involved. Schectman argues investors should pay less attention to official purchase numbers and more to ongoing delivery trends and accumulation patterns, even when specific claims remain contested. Repeated institutional buying during periods of price weakness, in his view, deserves closer scrutiny. Ignoring where large players are putting their capital has historically cost long-term savers dearly.
Well, if it was Besant and the Exchange Stabilization Fund, he could say to COMEX, just leave it there so we don't rattle the bushes. We'll slowly take possession of it, but leave it there. Does he worry about a COMEX default? No, it's the U.S. government's goal. Give it to me first before anyone gets paid.
Yep.
I'm saying that show me a better way to get out of the problem we're in and look your grandkids in the face and say, you too have a future. How the hell do young kids have a future in this environment that's only getting tougher and the dollar's becoming less desired? Interest rates have nowhere to go but higher unless they're manipulated lower, which is monetization, which leads to hyperinflation. We're trapped. We can't lower, we can't raise. So what do? You got to think outside the box. That's what I did. And I added a little bit of a caveat to what Judy said, and I still think it's the best idea I've ever heard.